All I can say is, thank God the Lions lost. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom Grossi, and today we are ranking all four teams within the NFC North, otherwise known as the best damn division in football. Now, originally, I was going to take a look and rank the undefeated teams like I did last week because that went over really well. You seem to enjoy that. But the problem is there's really not too many left in that there's the Patriots, there's the Chiefs, and then there's the 49ers because they didn't play this week. And pretty much that's the order. And what it is, Patriots, Chiefs, and then 49ers because, yeah, that's about it. So there's only one team left in the NFC and two teams left in the AFC as the Packers and the Lions and the Bills just all fell apart. But let's break it down. So the way that I'm going to break it down is I wanted to do this because we're already a quarter of the way through the season as we head into week 5. And I felt like this was a good, hey, let's check in and see how our favorite division is doing. And it is competitive as hell. I mean, the worst team right now is at 500, but then you have other teams like the AFC East, which you have two teams who haven't won a game yet. So, we're doing pretty damn well. So, let's get down to it. So, number 4 coming in last place at the moment, and I don't think this is too reactionary. That is the Minnesota Vikings, sitting at 2-2. And before everyone's like, oh my God, Tommy, let me explain. So, the Vikings, Dalvin Cook, one of the best running backs in the league, is back to form after last year. Didn't look so good coming back from an injury, but Dalvin Cook has literally kept the Vikings alive. And the games that they've won is basically just because of Dalvin Cook. Now, that's not to say that their defense is terrible, because it is not. Their defense is still super duper solid. However, if you start taking a look at the offense, because I had the pleasure of sitting down and watching that Bears and Vikings game yesterday, and boy, oh boy. Now, to be honest, as a Packers fan, I have only watched 2 Vikings games this season. The game in which they lost at Lambeau, and then the game where they just lost at Soldier Field. What it comes down to is they're 0-2 within the division, and good God, Kirk Cousins is just flat out ineffective. The amount of dump-offs that I saw him and checkdowns that he did yesterday, most of the time to Dalvin Cook, was embarrassing. And the time that he went long, he missed Adam Thielen for a wide-open touchdown. And so the defense is still good, but you had Mitch Trubisky, who got hurt in one of the first plays of the game. Chase Daniel comes in, and the guy is able to pick the secondary apart, not to the point of Aaron Rodgers or anything, but he's able to at least move the ball down the field, and he's able to get enough points to win the game. Now, the Bears defense is really, really good. They're the best one within the division, one of the best, if not the best, in football. But, I understand that Kirk Cousins got sacked 6 times yesterday. The offensive line didn't do him any favors. Dalvin Cook was ineffective. But now, every single time that the Vikings are playing a team that is over 500 and that is somewhat decent, and Kirk Cousins is responsible for going downfield and winning them the game, it ain't happening. Now, later tonight, there's going to be a whole thing just about Kirk Cousins because it needs to be talked about. And there's not enough time in this one video. But there's a complete lack of balance going on the Minnesota Vikings. And I just do not trust them against subpar to good teams. They lost to the Packers, they lost to the Bears, and the reason they won against the Raiders and the Falcons, not only because they suck at this point, but because, again, Dalvin Cook is able to get going. If you stop Dalvin Cook, that team is done. That team is completely and totally done. Now, you take a look, they put up the 3rd most points in the division. right? So their offense isn't last, so that's something. But I mean, it's the Dalvin Cook show. And so going forward, I mean, like you look in this division, the Vikings right now for me are sitting at the bottom because at least with the team above them, the Lions, they have shown that if good teams, they're playing good teams, they'll come out on top or at least come really damn close. And so right now for me, the Vikings at 2-2 are sitting at the bottom of the division. Now, like I just said, moving on to the Lions. If you told me just at the beginning of the season, 4 weeks ago, that the Lions would be sitting on top of the division, both record-wise and in this video above the Vikings, I would not have believed you. And especially, you know what, even after week 1, after tying with the Cardinals, and everyone laughed at the Lions because, look, they're terrible. They blew a double-digit lead against the Cardinals. But here they are sitting at 2-1-1. Could have been 3-0-1 and the only remaining undefeated team in the NFC North. But there was some bad officiating yesterday, some pass interference that wasn't getting called. But I'm not ready to crown the Lions of like, oh my God, they're amazing. But they nearly knocked off the Chiefs, that's an achievement. It came down to the last 10 seconds of that game. Now, their defense has allowed the most points within the division by far, but their offense is also number 1 in the division for points scored. Now, they went obviously against the Cardinals. They weren't able to finish off that game, but listen, even though the Eagles were hurt, they were able to take down the Eagles. Some of that self-inflicted wounds on behalf of Philadelphia, but listen, the Packers lost to them. Then you also had the Chargers who they were to knock off. Then you have the Chargers who they were able to knock off, which I think the Chargers are better than their record indicates. But, you know, that's an impressive feat in itself. Again, some self-inflicted wounds there. But I think yesterday the Lions kind of woke up and kind of showed the rest of the league like, hey, you know, we have weapons on this team. They have weapons on the offensive side of the ball. They do need to fix that defense as Pat Mahomes was able to go down. But they held Pat Mahomes to 0 touchdowns, which is only the 4th time in his career. So, I mean, that's pretty damn impressive. So I'm going to put the Lions up here because, again, their defense is very suspect. Their offense, while the number 1 scoring in this division, you know, could still improve here. But right now, that has given them enough to knock off the Vikings. Then moving on to number 2, and that is the Chicago Bears, sitting at 3-1. Now, their defense has allowed the least amount of points within the division by far at 45. Their offense, yeah, not great. Not going great with the offense. But the strength of that defense allows literally anyone, but Chase Daniels to be put in the back there, and he's able to still be successful and put up enough points to win. So their offense doesn't need to be amazing. Now, Mitch Trubisky, injured. Seems like it's going to be day by day. He is doubtful for next week. But, I mean, going forward, Chase Daniel definitely is adequate enough. He has 11 years of experience to go in and beat teams because they only have to put up like 16 points and they're going to wind up winning the game because that defense is so good. They had 6 freaking sacks yesterday and make Kirk Cousins' life a living hell as well as Dalvin Cook's. And so that defense is just as scary as it was last year. And so this is why I'm putting them up here. Their offense does leave much to be desired. And I think guys like obviously Allen Robinson is very, very talented. You have guys like Cohen and Montgomery who are talented as well, but they're not being utilized in the best way. Their offensive line wasn't too great yesterday. But all that being said, I am going to be very interested to see how they play up against other competition, that offense that can put on a lot of points. Somebody like the Chiefs, for example. It'd be interesting to see kind of where they're going to be at. Even the Cowboys game will be an interesting test there, even though the Saints defense took care of them last night. But I think right now the Bears are sitting pretty at number 2, both in the division and in the standings, and also in this video with the rankings, because I feel like their defense is just that damn good that they can hold opponents to under 10 points and they'll be solid. Then moving on to number 1, and this is where you're going to be like, of course, the Packers are number 1, but hey, they were number 5 in last week's video with ranking the undefeated team. So yeah. And listen, if you've watched me for any amount of time, you've probably seen that obviously I'm a little bit of a Packers fan, but I'm also the kind of guy that will call the Packers out, and when they're not doing well, I'm one of the first people to say they're not doing well. And let's get that out of the way. The Packers on Thursday night, they sucked. The offense was a little bit better than what we have seen, but they stalled out in the red zone. They stalled out on third down again. And, you know, you look into the performance that they put on, sent Packers fans into a frenzy of, I can't tell you how many freaking DMs I got of, we need to sign Des Bryant, we need to sign Jay Ajayi, we need to do this, we need to sign everybody. Everybody, we need to sign them because the ship is sinking, the world is ending, and I disagree with that. So let's take a look at the bad. On Thursday, the play calling, bad. LaFleur deciding to throw it 4 times in a row with 1 yard to go, bad. Defense, let up a lot of points, didn't get any pressure on Carson Wentz. Wentz was able to get it out quickly, lots of slant routes, hurt us. Special teams, awful. Mason Crosby kicked it out of bounds on a kickoff and also allowed Miles Sanders to run right past us into our territory. And obviously you also had the strip sack as well on Aaron Rodgers. So all that being said, as I've said multiple times now about the Eagles game, it was a collective loss. It was a team loss. It is on a short week. And so I'm not going to put a ton of stock into that unless that occurs again. They're third in points allowed, but the vast majority within the division. But the vast majority of those points came on Thursday night. So their defense has been amazing for 3 games, and they've played damn good opponents too. And so all that being said, they have the second highest points scored in the division, right behind the Lions. And so there is a bunch of balance there as they sit there at 3-1. And on top of that, there is a ton of room for improvement. That offense can get much, much better. That defense, we need to stop the run. If we don't, we're going to get destroyed by the Cowboys. But then you have like the Saints, who are ranked like 29th in defense, able to stop Ezekiel Elliott and able to win the game and keep the Cowboys to under 10 points. And so the Packers, to me, show, I think, some of the most potential. The Lions are really close to that, and the Bears are already established that their defense is damn good. The Vikings, God, at this point, like, Kirk Cousins has not proved to me that he can go out and win games for them, and if you stop Dalvin Cook, there's nothing that shows me like, oh yeah, Kirk Cousins, yeah, he's going to get this done. Their defense is still very good, don't get me wrong, but as we continue out throughout this season, right now, this is where I see the rankings. This could completely and totally change next week, but I have the Packers at number 1, the Bears at 2, the Lions at 3, and the Vikings at 4, which actually just coincides with their actual standings, but also this video's rankings. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Lions fans, are you like, we told you, or are you as surprised as I am? Let me know what you think. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy on all social media, see down below. Check out podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And check out patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy if you would like to support me for some cool rewards. But thank you so much for watching. We'll be doing a Kirk Cousins breakdown coming out later tonight. But I'm Tom Grossi, and as always, go Pack Go.